Well, thanks. I think I'm officially calling this meeting everyone who wasn't on vacation.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So if you saw in the agenda, so I'm glad you all were able to connect. We did have a little bit of issues with people getting the notification of the meeting. And then also just thinking that it was early and people were getting their day started. I kind of earmarked the first 10 minutes just for a chance to chat and kind of catch up. So it's really lovely to see all of you. Thanks for joining. We just jumped from the new member coffee, which had Ian McKinnon from HSH. Not sure if he's going to be able to make it, but it was good to meet him. He actually took my membership spot since I've moved from HSH over to HNTV. But it's nice to see so many faces. So feel free to kind of just say hello. And, you know, if anybody's got any fun vacation plans or had any fun vacation plans, we'd love to hear about them.
Okay,
if you don't talk, I'm going to pick on people. Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I was going to pick on somebody. So,
yeah.
Zach, they were on the new member meeting. We were having a conversation about Maine, but I feel like as the Rhode Island representatives, you have to come up with something about, you know, what's awesome about Rhode Island. I personally am very excited that Waterfire is returning because I haven't seen it yet, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to speak of Waterfire for a moment. I mean, there's a lot of people, including myself, who actually live downtown, that we've been all waiting for that news for quite some time. And, you know, the fact that we're even able to pull off 4 for this year is pretty remarkable, despite everything that's still going on.
Right.
I would say, you know, to kind of fill in, I would say, you know, given the fact that we're a state that has, you know, a good chunk of coastline, you know, our beaches are some of the most desirable places in the whole state. And so there's this ongoing debate of shoreline access. And, you know, I think what has been disappointing this summer for us is that it's just rained a lot. So a lot of us just couldn't have gone to our lovely beaches. Like even I had a plan to go down to Scarborough, and I'm like, no, it's raining in the morning, not going.
Yeah.
Happening now. But
so I really wanted to try the buses down to the beaches because I saw there was an announcement about the buses to the beach, and I did Google it, and it's like a 2-hour bus ride, but I still wanted to try it just to do it. So
yeah, I mean, it's a service that we've had for quite some time. You know, I think there's been always ongoing conversation as to how we best improve that, because I think, as you saw on the website, Elizabeth, is that it's not just the unique service that we operate right now in Newport that just ended. We had a summer-long pilot for one route down there for some of the beaches in Newport and Middletown, but we've also run services from like North Providence, from Pawtucket, from Central Falls, giving low-income and minority populations who don't have access to the beach to access services on Saturdays and Sundays to get down to the beach at least a couple times a day. It is something we always keep a good look at and see how we best improve it, because it's definitely something that, you know, we get constant emails from riders saying, you know, is there a way to make it more extensive than we do now? And so, you know, it's certainly something we keep looking at.
Yeah. Well, as
I
somebody
encourage you to use it next year.
I know. Well, hopefully next year will be a little more normal. But as a non-car owner, you know, I could rent a car and go to the beach, but I really wanted to try the bus thing. So next year, there's a lot of things that I feel like I've been putting off for when things are better, and I'm going to just have to suck it up and start doing all of it.
And Elizabeth, one of the good things about Rhode Island being a small state is I feel like a lot of the beaches are probably bikeable distance.
Definitely some there. I mean, some of that in the bay, right? You can get to.
Yeah, on the East Bay, it's a little bit easier because we have the bikeway down the coast. Mm-hmm. It is not so easy to bike down to the Narragansett beaches.
Right.
But
yeah,
you know, I know the cycling community has been pushing RIDOT and the MPO for some time to actually put investment into connecting some bike infrastructure down that way. I know the town of Narragansett is putting some cycling infrastructure in. But cool. You know, as with all things, it is not easy to accomplish in a short window, to say the least.
No, but that's okay. I have an e-bike now, so it's more feasible.
Absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of bikes around my neighborhood with like small, like 2-stroke engines attached to it. Is anybody else seeing those?
I
And
hate
it's
that.
usually middle school kids just like going around town, which I can't blame them. That sounds pretty fun.
And then they try to park in all our bike racks, which we're not allowed to park vehicles that have gas engines because many of our racks are next to our buildings, and
Mhm.
such an enforcement mess.
Becomes
my-
a fire risk, huh?
Mm.
In my last apartment, one of the neighbors had a skateboard. No, it was like a scooter. It was kind of like a oversized scooter that it looked like he had literally put a lawnmower motor on, and it was the loudest thing. It was so obnoxious.
I think that's what they usually are. I think they're lawnmowers.
Is it? Yeah.
Mowers that they attach to these bikes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And Kiki, I had to look up what water fire was too. I'd never heard of that. And they were definitely talking about it. Like I should know about it. So
Yeah.
thank you for the
Aha.
website, Paul. It looks amazing.
Who doesn't know water fire?
So,
It's no
so were
clue.
you West Connecticut, Abby?
No, like central coastal.
So you never made it over to Rhode Island? Huh.
I mean,
See,
yeah,
you can
of
have your Maine
course.
blueberries. We have water fire. See, I feel better now.
Yeah, no, it looks awesome. No, we would make it to Watch Hill all the time, the Squamigot area, but yeah, not
Yeah.
too much further.
That's so weird.
Okay, so Vermont's got rock fire, right? Look just like water
way.
fire, but in
I was going to
granite
say snow
quarries.
fire.
Right?
Snow
They
fire.
do that,
Fire, no,
Dan?
no. Yeah, we do. Yeah, up in Barrie, right? They run this thing called rock fire, and
my
there's
God.
bonfires everywhere, throwing molten metal against boards, and it like sparks like huge.
What?
Yeah. So it's crazy. Look it up. It's great.
That
Yeah.
sounds
Okay.
insanely
Yeah.
dangerous, and yet I still really want to see that
Yeah.
now.
Yep,
That
fall
does sound
fire is one of
amazing.
them, and then the other one is rock fire. There's two events. That
I was
that
going to
goes
say
Barrie.
we have sugar on snow, so that beats
Oh,
all
wow.
of it.
No, you're not kidding about this. I'm just taking a quick look at it. That
Wait, so does the rock fire thing happen in the water in the quarries or it's
No, usually it's like on the edges of the rocks, but they build bonfires and giant fields and set off. I wouldn't call them explosions, but there's no boom, but it looks big and impressive. Yeah.
This is really cool looking. I had no idea.
I'm feeling like the Patriot chapter needs to start doing events tied to these kinds of things.
Well, honestly, it just sounds like all of our events should have the
Fire-related
word
events.
fire in them. Yeah, right? Yeah.
despite the fact that we all have water to some extent in rather large capacities, whether it's lakes or shoreline.
true?
Our fall season of events will just be like TDM on fire. We'll just...
There you go.
Make it happen.
Mhm.
Very
Good,
nice.
good. Well, thanks everybody. So just to stick with the agenda, at least for the first part of the meeting, I'd just like to kind of jump in some introductions and welcome. So again, thank you all for coming today and attending. And since it's a small group, I think it'd be just fine to kind of go around the room and kind of introduce everybody. But I will ask maybe like Elizabeth and the officers of the Patriot chapter to kind of start, just so this is a chance for folks that are, we're not seeing each other too much these days. So just a chance to get to know everybody who's working for you and everything. So I'm Paul Nelson. I'm the president of the Patriot chapter. And maybe I'll pass it over to Abby.
Hi, everyone. Abby Blything. I am the Sustainable Transportation Coordinator at the University of Vermont and the Vice President of the Patriot chapter. So I will turn it. Oh, we don't have many people from our board. So
True. Actually, let
ahead.
me, why don't I just, I'll mention that the other two elected officials are Ben Hammer is the treasurer. And he, I think, is in the same situation as Jim and Abby with back to school. He's triple booked today, so he wasn't able to make it, but he's been our treasurer longstanding. And then we also have Mike Moriarty from We Drive You is the chapter secretary. And Diane Hansen is actually the past president, but she wasn't able to make it because apparently her dad is very sick. So she's traveling to see him. And then also maybe I'll ask, but Jim is a really active member of kind of ACT in general. And so I'll give him a chance to introduce himself.
Thanks. I'm Jim Barr. I'm the director here at the University of Vermont for transportation. And I say very softly, NPART. It's good to have both in the same wheelhouse because then you can use one against the other. I've been in ACT since 2009, 2010 in some position or another. So if you're new, watch out because we'll grab you and put you in a position somewhere. I've been chapter director for a couple of terms. I've been the ACT National Secretary, and I'm finishing up my third term as an ACT National at-large board member. I'm the chair of the Professional Development Committee. And so I'm going to pitch to everybody who hasn't gone through any kind of a leadership academy or impact, consider it. We'll put the link in the chat for you. It's a great program. We've got one coming up in 2022 down in Orlando, down by Disney Springs. It's going to be awesome. And many people here have been through a leadership academy or impact. So I'll stop talking there. And do you want me to pass it to somebody?
I think Sarah should go next.
Sarah, yeah.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Kishman. I'm a consultant where I work for myself and me, and I'm the new membership chair. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's really fun to hang out. I've been on the periphery of the Patriot chapter and ACT for a number of years, but this is really fun. And this is really fun.
And then Elizabeth, do you want to say hi? Sorry. Yep.
Hi, I think I know most of you, and those of you I don't, it's nice to meet you. I'm the ACT Membership Experience Manager. I've been a staff person for about a year and 4 months or so, but I was an ACT member myself for 8 prior to that. So I actually met Jim through Leadership Academy in 2013, and it sort of snowballed with involvement from there. So I was the Chesapeake chapter president when I took this job. So that sort of was the culmination of my volunteer leadership role. So I'm more than happy to talk to anyone and everyone about how you can get more involved, any questions about ACT. I put the link to Impact in the chat. I think it's a really great program, and anybody who has been through it, I think will pretty much attest that the true benefit of that program beyond the 3 days of leadership training is having a cohort of 15 to 18 people that you really kind of bond with and then have there as your support group, you know, throughout the year and onward. So I would encourage you, if you're in that like 3-ish to 8-ish years of TDM experience, I would definitely encourage you to think about it and apply, because I think it's a really great opportunity. So.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And maybe I'll just go through the rest of everybody who's here. And if you can just kind of introduce yourself quickly, we'll go from there. So I'll start with Dan.
Yeah, thanks. Dan Courier from the Vermont Agency of Transportation. I'm the Go Vermont manager. And so still feeling new, I have to admit, right? Even though I've been a member for almost 2 years now, with the whole COVID pandemic, it's feeling like, I still feel new. So anyway, that's my story, but yeah, happy to be here and happy to connect with everyone here. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Kiki, you're up next.
I'm Kiki Doman, and I am here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm here representing the DE&I committee, and I'm a part of the Cascade chapter. And I think I've been involved with ACT pretty much since I came into the industry in 2012. So
Thanks,
I've been involved in various ways. Yeah.
Cool. And we're looking forward to hearing more about the committee next. So I'll go to Pat and then I'll go to Julia. So Pat, if you want to say hi.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pat Sullivan. I'm the executive director of the Seaport TMA in Boston. I've been an ACT member, I think, since about 2011, so quite a long time. I've worked with many of you on the call, and it's great to see you all.
Thanks, Pat. Julia, and then we'll go to Zach.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to see some of you again and meet the rest of you. My name is Julia Ween. I work for Steer, a consulting firm. I'm based in Connecticut. I was part of the Patriot chapter probably from 2013 to 2015 and worked with a bunch of you. And then I've been out on the West Coast since then and just recently relocated back here. So really excited to get involved with the Patriot chapter again and really good to see everyone.
Welcome back, Julia.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Thanks, you too.
All right,
Hi,
Zach,
everyone.
and then Stephanie. Yep.
Hi, everyone. Zachary Agash, capital planner for the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority, working on sustainability, TDM, and long-range transportation planning for RIPTA, which is our statewide transit operator and mobility manager for the entire state. but I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I wanted to join the last meeting, but I got pulled into 3 meetings at the same time.
Thanks, Zach. Stephanie, and then we'll end with Ian.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm Stephanie. I'm the program manager for Assembly Connect TMA in the Somerville district of Assembly Square district of Somerville under Northeast Consulting. You probably know Andrea Leary and Allison Simmons. They both have created that. I think I was a part of ACT since 2016 under Transcom. I can't say that I was pretty involved or did much under that TMA, but once I moved over to this TMA in 2019, I was able to attend the New York ACT conference, and I was just able to attend the last conference. So thank you to the board for selecting me as a scholarship recipient. Thank you.
Sure thing. All right, Ian, we'll end with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. Ian McKinnon, work for Howard Stein Hudson in Boston, work in land development and TDM all over the Boston region. This is my first meeting. Great to meet you all and learn more about ACT. So thank you again.
Great, thanks everybody. So I'll now turn it over, and Kiki, I think I can run the presentation. So just let me know when you want to switch slides, but let me get that going. So Kiki, actually, just one note, Kiki has gotten up at 6 o'clock in the morning to join us because she's based on the West Coast. So Julia, you probably know her pain a little bit as far as time zones, but she's got a little bit to speak about on here, and and after that, I'd be happy to have a little bit more of a discussion because I don't think we've really had a chance as a chapter to have too much of a DE&I discussion. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. So I will share my screen, and Kiki, why don't you get started?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And it's truly my pleasure to be here with you all this morning. It was a great opportunity. The sunrise is beautiful so far, so it's just a great morning. So it's a pleasure to be here. Well, first off, thank you again. And let's just jump right into the presentation. You can go to next slide. And so I'm just going to quickly just go over kind of how the committee came to be, the diversity, equity, inclusion, how it came to be, a quick overview of the committee itself, and then talk about some ways that you can all get involved. And because the committee is really trying to invite members for feedback and just overall involvement. So first off, again, thank you for inviting me and inviting the committee to just start this conversation, because this is definitely, we see this as an ongoing conversation. And so, so I look forward to working with you all. And so back in 2019, the strategic plan was completed and was approved by the board. And one of the top priorities of the strategic plan was DE&I efforts and how ACT could integrate more DE&I into the overall organization. Well, in 2012, 6 o'clock, sorry. In 2020, with the events happening around our country externally around racial injustice, there was a call for the membership to create a task force. And you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
And this call and the response was overwhelming in the absolute best way. We had 63 members offer and volunteer to be a part of this task force. So every single chapter was represented on this task force. And so that means that there was TDM professionals from every corner of the country involved in this process. So it was clear that the membership was eager to move forward with DE&I efforts. So you can go ahead and move forward. Next slide. So through all of the brainstorming exercises and a membership survey, and the task force was able to figure out that that membership wanted a more standing group to represent DE&I efforts, and you can move forward. So and that it was clear that the membership was very eager for D&I efforts to be more integrated, and that again, that they wanted to have more of a permanent group to represent this work. You can go ahead and move forward. So fast forward to March, there was approval for a committee to actually be formed. So in March, we had our very first meeting, and we've been meeting monthly ever since. And so we have 19 members a part of this committee, and it's actually the largest committee within ACT. So really proud of that. And this is the most eager and excited group that I've ever worked with. So it's just been very passionate for positive change. And so this committee, I believe by month 2, so in April, we completed a charter and we completed our work plan, and that was just approved by the board as well. And we were able to identify different priorities for the committee to take on for this year and next year as well. And those priorities revolve around developing resources and tools for membership in the board of directors to utilize, and performance metrics so we can measure our ongoing efforts as a committee. There's also a subcommittee also working on outreach and communication. So that would include intentional conversations and outreach with other committees within ACT, and then also with councils and then chapters as well. So which is why I'm here this morning to discuss all these efforts with you. So thank you again. And then we have another group also focusing on policy. And this group is really focusing on reviewing internal policies within ACT that revolve around decision making, and then also developing new policies on maybe building frameworks for that chapters can use for reporting DE&I surveys or all that is kind of being developed right now, and this is why we're here. We can discuss further at the end of this presentation, but that is probably a pretty big portion, is that we're just kind of getting all what do we know now. And so anyways, the policy group is working internally and focusing on that. And then we also are working closely with the Public Policy Committee and reviewing external policies with a DE&I lens. So really thankful just for the communication with other groups as well. So next slide, please. So the DE&I group was so thankful. We actually had a very large presence at the conference with a session. So we had a session panel. So 3 members of our committee served on a panel, and it was so successful. We talked about accessibility, and those, just a side note, those presentations, the panelists are planning to post those presentations as well on Connect. And so, so if you had further questions for on those presentations, you can feel free to reach out to the presenters as well. But and then we also were able to, you can go ahead to next slide. And then we also had, so if you actually click on this link, and I have the link right here that I'll put in the chat, we also developed kind of a sign for the conference, and it was a kind of a pop-up banner, and it talked about our mission and our goals and our vision, but it also had a QR code. And that QR code leads to the committee website, which I am putting right here for you. And this committee website, of course, it talks about like our plans, but then also it also invites feedback. We want to hear from membership. We want to hear comments, suggestions, things that we're possibly missing. We don't know what we don't know, right? And so we want to hear from you. And so this is a feedback form that's still live, and we plan to push it to membership and these type of presentations as well, just because we do want to hear feedback. And if you would also like to be more involved with this process and even attend our committee meetings or be involved, if one of the focus areas that I talked about earlier and you're interested in that, say that, you know, I have a really great idea for outreach or how we can engage membership or something about a survey or anything like that. There's a box on this form on the website that you can click, and then someone, probably myself or someone, another leadership on the committee will reach out to you, and we can talk one-on-one, or we'll send you an invitation to join us in our meetings. And so, and then also looking forward, we are developing a survey, and we're planning to push it out for the membership for 2022. And yeah, I think that we also have a potential webinar coming up with partnering, I believe, with CACT. And so we are collaborating on that right now, and we're kind of shooting for October, late October. But once those details are finalized, we'll push that out as well. But yeah, so just looking for ways to collaborate and continue the conversation, and would love to hear from you as well. If you had any questions, you can go to next slide. Definitely went through that very, very fast, but I know I only had about 10 minutes, and I really want to save most of this time for discussion as well. So invite questions, or would also, if you have suggestions on how we can just move forward and engage membership, or yeah, so.
Cool.
Thank
I'm
you
gonna
for
stop
your
sharing.
time.
Yeah, thank you, Kiki. I appreciate that and the committee's work. And as I mentioned before, I feel like this is not really something that we as a chapter have had too much discussion on. So I just wanted to open up the floor and ask if anybody has any questions for Kiki, or if there's any ways that you've encountered this that you think that our chapter could help or focus on, or anything like that. So I'll just open the floor.
This is Sarah. I so appreciate the chance to have this conversation or start it. I so appreciate the organization's work even before George Floyd to try to identify that as a priority. And I feel like a lot of us have been doing, like I've been doing a deeper dive on transportation and mobility justice than I have in a number of years, the last year or so. And so I just feel like any way that we can support kind of our individual journeys, or also like talking to colleagues who are in big firms and navigating their DEI, D&I work. Yeah, and sharing sort of how we might be holding ourselves accountable for digging deeper on this stuff too. So anyway, I totally appreciate knowing more about the committee, and that like I could listen in. That would be super cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so appreciate it.
Yeah. I would love, so if you, like I mentioned with that form, there's a spot in there that you can input your contact information, and we'd love to invite you and everyone to be a part of the conversation. So, so yeah, that is one group. So the tools and metrics group that I was talking about, their priority is really trying to develop those resources for an individual member, so what they can use in their own communities and their organization, but then also more ACT related as well, within their own chapter. Is it one thing that we're trying to develop right now, for instance, is providing or building a framework for like a DE&I scholarship. How do we go about that? Should it be chapter level, national level? You know, so we're kind of mulling all that over, and we plan to provide recommendations to the board, because again, we provide recommendations to the board, and then we can move forward with a more definitive plan for 2022 as well. So, thank you.
Thanks a lot. And so what I would say is, just for the sake of time, unless anybody wants to say anything else, I'm happy to kind of table this and have a venue for larger discussions on this if anybody wants to, or obviously please feel free to reach out to Kiki and join the committee directly. But I think we as a board want to be open to ways that the Patriot chapter can tackle this. So don't be afraid to reach out to Abby or myself or, Sarah or anything like that. So Kiki, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome work.
And so next agenda item, I'm going to reach over or pass it over to Sarah. If she could just kind of give a brief update on the health of our membership and provide an overview on that.
Sure. I wanted to ask, who all was at the conference? I was not. So Jim, Stephanie, that's right, you, Stephanie, you said Pat made it. Anybody else? Okay. So I'm thinking you guys probably talked a little bit about membership status there. So I apologize if I'm reiterating stuff. So thanks to Elizabeth for keeping us posted on membership. And I think maybe what was reported at the conference, but we're about 80 members. We are 80 members right now, and maybe have had a little bump over the last year, but more because like the Julia's moving, folks who were members in other chapters who have moved our way or returned. And I am, and other folks on the leadership committee have been looking at prospects, including, like Elizabeth had a good idea, let's look at where there might be an organizational membership where there's a body not filled, like a 2-person or 5+. And then also trying to expand, for example, I'm the only member in Maine. And so trying to look a little bit at our geographic diversity as well. And totally open to who to reach out to if you have friends and colleagues who have some interest and who have any little piece of their universe is in the TDM world. I'd love to hear about them and reach out in whatever way you think might be appropriate. And I think the other thing, I think the other piece is sort of how we help people even understand what chapter membership would be about. And I totally need to check in with leadership about this possibility, but if there's any possibility for folks to sit in, for example, on one of our webinars and sort of see the value, that might be another thing we could explore. So, trying to build our membership and help folks see the value, and also just help each other sort of find our way in our own membership, like what we see a value to. So I'm also happy to talk to anybody just about membership value in general.
Yeah, I think to kind of build on what Sarah's saying, I think we found that the Patriot chapter especially seems like it's actually a collection of small groups. There's a Boston community. Each state kind of has its own identity around TDM. So I think we're hoping to rely on folks that are in those communities to kind of understand their network and reach out to people who you think might benefit from the resources that ACT has. Because one of the reasons I've always liked to stay involved is that the TDM community can feel small because sometimes you're the only person at your organization or you're a one-person organization. And so this is a chance for access to a larger community. And definitely what I'll kind of move on to is into the program side of things, just to kind of rearrange the agenda. But that's definitely a resource that we're hoping to offer, that you can extend invitations to some of the events that we hold. ACT has a lot of webinars themselves, like National has a lot of webinars that you can connect people to. I think that's a great way for people to see the value in each of them and be able to connect. And then on the program side, we've obviously pushed to primarily, all virtual because of the COVID concerns. And so we've been trying to put together different programs that way. And for the fall, so we had a program earlier in the summer where the folks from ABC in Boston were able to share the results of their commuter survey, where they surveyed employees in Boston. And I think many of the TMAs in Boston participated in that and helped recruit people. But so it was really interesting to see how moods around commuting and returning to their commuting have changed. I think there was some silver lining for alternative modes in that. For the fall, we're trying to move a little bit past that into some other topics that were raised in the survey that we sent around. And one of those is looking at some of the work that I think was done in Vermont, Dan, where Agile Mile had worked with the community up there to not only link carpoolers, but to kind of broaden that to just any sort of shared ride, and has had, I think, pretty decent success in like having people volunteer to give rides to medical appointments to people in their community and other things like that. And so making the service beyond just a carpool matching service. And then the other one we're trying to arrange is kind of delving into the world of microtransit. So looking at some of the services that VIA and other vendors like that are able to provide in different types of communities. So that's kind of the focus on programs. We were just starting as a board to start to talk about do we want to return to in-person events? It feels like even in my own personal life, that was like, we were ready to do all sorts of things, and then Delta variant news came, and like I met up with my family and we made sure that we all got tested before, just to be super safe and all that. So I think we might be pausing the discussion on in-person events, but if anybody has any thoughts otherwise, be open to hearing that. So that's kind of the update on programs. And maybe what we'll do is we'll just kind of get through the business side of the meeting and then open it up as far as new business, because I do want to make sure we leave some time at the end. So the second thing I'm on reporting on is just the financial report of the chapter. So currently our balance is $6,362. And that's a balance that we've preserved because, as you know, during COVID, ACT National is not providing any, I forget the term, Elizabeth, but the chapter share has been kind of withheld just until we can kind of right the ship after COVID. So, but for us, a lot of the expense for the chapter, part of the two major expenses are scholarships and in-person events. And so not having to buy food or rent space has meant that we've been able to preserve most of our budget. We've been trying to offer scholarships, and I would honestly say we've gotten, it's kind of been hit or miss as far as interest in the scholarships. So if you have any feedback to us on offering more attractive scholarships or other ways